Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. And I've just realised I didn't get myself a beer. I'm in real trouble now. How am I going to last this show without any liquid refreshment at all? So I might have to disappear off at some point during the show to grab a can, folks. But because it looks like it's a solo show this evening. But before we do that, we'll get through a whole bunch of rugby, so don't you worry. What we got tonight? Well, we've got Super Rugby, Aupaki and Super Rugby Pacific, as well as the Six Nations, which is back again as well. So all of that on the DrivingMaul show this evening with me, Paul. I'll be your host this evening. And I will, and don't forget that you can listen to us as a podcast, such as New Zealand Sport Radio, or you can also watch us live at 8 p.m. every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So yes, all of that. And before we get into the show, the reason that I am on my own is because it's birthday Monday today, apparently. So Stephen can't join me as it's his wife's birthday. So I hope Mrs. Stephen has a lovely meal out and they have and she's had a wonderful day. Also, it's Brad's birthday as well. So happy birthday to Brad, who is one of the co-hosts of our standoff show on a Wednesday evening. And then finally, it's my dad's birthday as well. So I'll be saying happy birthday to Dad after this, as he lives over in Europe. So yes, big birthday Monday for the New Zealand Sport Radio kind of extended far now. So there you go, folks. Not much in the way of rugby news, really, that has come up. It's mainly been about the games that I've kind of noticed over the last week or so, which is kind of nice. Wales seems to have calmed down a bit, but still a bit of a mess for the over there in Wales to be figured out. I've been listening to the Attacking Scrum podcast, so give them a listen if you want to know what's going on in Welsh rugby. They're a good podcast, and boy, oh boy, it's still a big mess over there. And you do wonder how well, or if they are going to be able to compete next year as all their salaries get slashed in that one. Chris River's England are terrible. Should have stuck with Eddie. Well, yes, we will get on to that later. Talking of podcasts, actually, the Eddie Jones podcast is pretty good. I've been listening to his one as well, where he has a quick show once a week talking about Super Rugby and the Six Nations predominantly. Obviously talking about Wallabies and the preparation that they're doing towards the Rugby World Cup. And he's over in Europe at the moment doing a scouting mission by watching the two Welsh games and also by looking at the what's the other one? Oh, I've gone blank now. Looking at the hotel and training facilities that the Wallabies will be using. So, yeah. Good evening to Simon as well. Everybody. The New York Ironman in Major League Rugby, Eastern Conference, and Seattle Seawolves in the Western Conference. Are those two topping at that table? Yeah, not been really following the Major League Rugby this season, I'll be honest. I'm with you. And Ty Hammers, yes, up Chiefs Manor, both in Super Rugby Aupaki and also in Super Rugby Pacific as well. The Chiefs dominating across both of those. Over on the women's competition, they have finished the round robin with 3 wins from 3 games. They beat the Hurricanes in round 1, 53-21. Then the Blues 50-33, and then in their final round they only scored 46 points against Mata'atu, who scored 38. So some big scores there, over 150 points or 149 points over 3 games. So a lot of points there by the Chiefs. They were behind in that one and came back. So good on them, and they still have won every single game that Chiefs Manoa have played, and that's been over the last over 3 years now that they have won every single game. So well done to them to top the table. The Blues beat the Hurricanes down there in Wellington 31-22, which rescued their season after the Blues had lost their opening two games against Mata'atu and the Chiefs in that one. The Blues saved it. So basically, the Chiefs topped the table with 3 wins from 3. Then each of the other 3 teams, Mata'atu, Blues, and the Hurricanes, all won 1 game and lost 2. Due to points difference, Mata'atu came second, ahead of the Blues, and the Hurricanes came last. That means that the Hurricanes didn't get a bonus point, so they were actually on 4 points, whereas Mata'atu and Blues were on 5 points. So that brings us into the semi-final weekend, where all 4 teams have qualified. The Chiefs will be up against the Hurricanes at 6 p.m. on Sunday, and before that, the Mata'atu will play the Blues at 3:15. Both games are up in Albany Stadium this weekend, and then the following weekend for the finals weekend, that will be held in Hamilton. Now, unfortunately, I can't get to either of those weekends because this weekend coming up, my daughter's with me, and the weekend afterwards, that will be working on the census. That's what I've been doing, folks. So last weekend, I was rushed. I was asked to go up to Coromandel town to help them out because due to the rain, they've been a bit behind on getting all of their census forms out. So I was up there for a couple of days and then back in Waihi. So in the middle of a 9-day run of working on that, which does mean I've not watched as much rugby as I wanted to this weekend, folks. I'm sorry about that, but we will go through all of the games anyway. But as I say, next weekend, Mata'atu against the Blues, that should be a cracking game. Mata'atu won that one by 2 points when they met in the opening round, 33-31. Chiefs should beat the Hurricanes. Let's be honest, it was 53-21 last time out. So Chiefs into the title final, whereas Hurricanes into the bronze playoff or third, fourth playoff. And we'll see between Mata'atu and Blues. Let's say that should be a cracking game to see who goes on to lose to the Chiefs in the final. And is how that one looks to me, I'll be honest with you. Moving on then to Super Rugby Pacific, and let's have a look at their games this weekend. As Titan Haraz said, the Chiefs kicked it off in superb fashion, winning their game 28-7 over the Highlanders. Highlanders having a shocking season at the moment, sitting bottom of the table. The Chiefs now, that's 3 wins from 3 games, and all of them with try bonus points. They sit top of the table, and we'll have a look at the table closer at the end of the round. But look at that, 13 line breaks to 2, only missed 13 tackles to 44 by the Highlanders. Clearly, the Highlanders couldn't cope with the attacking firepower that the Chiefs brought to this game. The score could have been even higher, only 43% kicking. That's not very good, let's be honest. But so plenty of points left out on the pitch there with that one. Some work-ons for the Chiefs. Well, look, turnovers. 18 turnovers is too many, and it's another side that could be a problem. But when your opposition are, say, missing 44 tackles and only making 2 line breaks themselves, those number of turnovers are not going to be a problem. As say the Chiefs blew away the Highlanders there with that one, and lots of talk around Sean Stevenson, who really stepped his game up last season, and boy oh boy, is he a timing run to make it into the full All Black squad for the Rugby World Cup. We'll have to wait and see. There are a number of good wingers out there. Obviously, Will Jordan's come back from injury, but you've got Caleb Clark, Les Fanganuku, Sevu Reese, all hanging around and out there on the wings, and maybe even Rico Iwani being pushed out there as well. So lots of options out there, but Sean Stevenson, to say, making a very good case for his inclusion. Next up came one of the shocks of the round, not the biggest shock by any stretch, but the Rebels beat the Waratahs 34-27. The most points of any team this weekend scored there by the Rebels. This coming off let's be honest, not particularly good. Losing the Rebels lost to the Hurricanes 33-39. So look, they were scoring points. They showed that they could score, but they also lost the Force 34-27. So off the back of those two losses, I must admit I did think the Waratahs were going to have too much for the Rebels, but no. Look at that, 19 offloads, a round high there from the Rebels. Clearly risking their arm against Waratahs, who had a perfect set piece, but couldn't use that platform to push on to win to beat the Rebels there. Clearly, with those offloads, the Rebels got fast ball, and that was enough to see off the Waratahs. So cracking win for the Rebels. One of the teams I thought was going to be along with the Force, probably batching it out for the bottom two of the table. So to pick up a win against a sort of mid-table-ish side in Waratahs, that's a very good result for the Rebels. Not quite as good as the Drua against the Crusaders, 25-24. That's 3 losses on the bounce. Oh, sorry, that's 2 losses and a win over the Highlanders. The only win so far for the Crusaders. And the Fijian Drua, 2 wins out of their first 3 games. That's a cracking result for them, beating Moana Pacifica in a close one in the opening round. Remember, that was 34-36, a 2-point win over Moana Pacifica, followed by that blowout. Against the Waratahs, 17-46 over there in the Melbourne Super Round, and now over in Fiji, 25-24, a 1-point win over the Crusaders. Even though they only kicked 33% of their goals, it should have been a little bit easier than they made it. Really played with ball in hand. Look, only 16 kicks out of hand, and that's been a kind of a style that we've seen from the Drua, that they don't kick very much. Their line out, 10 from 15, not good enough really, but luckily it was enough with their 8 line breaks, only 2 by the Crusaders. The Crusaders really struggling to score points at the moment. You can see that when we look at the table, because the Crusaders have only scored 86 points. And when you think that the Reds, Melbourne Rebels, have scored more points than the Crusaders, with only 12 tries for, that you got to say, the Crusaders' attack really is spluttering at the moment. Line-out mauls was their go-to against the Drua, and you think that's what a lot of teams will try and do, but clearly not enough on the day. And a cracking win over there in front of a big crowd as well. Look at that, 92 tackles is all they had to make by the Drua. So look, by playing possession rugby, making the opposition make the tackles, you can use that to tire them out. And on the day, say, cracking one from them. 21 missed tackles, so more missed tackles than the Crusaders, and they made less tackles overall. That's not very good, and that's something that they'll want to clean up. But cracking win by the Drua, so cracking tries in that as well. So do watch that one. I say really big crowd over there in Fiji, and showing what pent up demand there has been for Super Rugby in Fiji. It'll be interesting to see what happens, what kind of crowds Moana Pacifica can get when they go to Samoa and Tonga over the coming years. Will they actually even relocate to one of those places? Because as well as the crowds for Moana Pacifica at Mount Smart Stadium have not been great, but you can see what can happen potentially in the islands. Next up, the Hurricanes lost to the Blues at 19-25. The Hurricanes coming off a pretty good start to the season with their 2 wins. So I did wonder whether they would be able to upset the Blues in this one. Look, decent set piece, but 18 turnovers, and then 172 tackles. That's high from anyone. Obviously, missing Artie Surveyor due to that 1-match ban he got for the yellow card and the warning on that one. So it'll be interesting to see how the Hurricanes bounce back with Artie coming back into them. But look, Good win, an important win for the Blues after they lost to the Brumbies in the previous round. Now, the Brumbies have not been scoring points. When we look at the table, they've only scored 79 points. That's less than the Moana Pacifica. That's less than the Rebels, less than the Crusaders even. But they've only allowed 62 points. Their defence has been good and their game management's been good. That's where the Blues fell down to the Brumbies, but managed to come back and get more line breaks than the Hurricanes, be more effective, and take the win down there in Wellington. Simon Hughes says Fiji and Drua need 3 more matches or 3 more wins to make it to the playoffs. That'll be cracking, won't it? And you have to remind that Moana Pacifica are playing 1 game in Apia this year. Yeah, that's why I said going to be the years to come because they're not playing in both Samoa and Tonga, just in Samoa this year. But yep, we'll have to see how that goes over there. Hopefully, it is a cracking crowd for that one. Then moving on then to that was the Hurricanes Blues, wasn't it? Brumbies versus the Reds, 23-17. Look at that. Reds kicking 33% of goal. Now, look, they missed 2 conversions. That 4 points didn't lose them the game, but they need to be better than that, in all honesty. They did very well against Brumbies at scrum time, which a bit of a surprise because Brumbies, look, set piece is part of their DNA, and to have that the worst scrum in that round is hat tip to the Reds, but it wasn't enough. Okay, yes, they gave a weekend high 18 turnovers, but 17 for the Brumbies, so it was pretty even on that one. But very good on the Reds, very good on their discipline, but it wasn't enough to seal off the Brumbies. Look, Brumbies, as I've said, game management. They've scored 79 points. They've allowed 62 points. They've scored 8 tries. They've allowed 8 tries in 3 games. They just know how to get over the line. Good defence. And good game management is seeing them home at the moment. Will that be enough when it comes to finals time? We'll have to wait and see. But the Brumbies currently playing some very clever rugby, if not sort of the free-flowing or high-scoring delights that we're seeing in some other games. But winning is the name of the game, and they are second in the table at the moment with 3 wins from 0. In that one, and Simon says, yeah, the Brumbies are a blessing and a curse. They're the most competitive team, but they're in the smallest catchment area for the game. Well, yes, hopefully the Brumbies can get some good crowds there. It's towards the end of the season. It gets very cold in Canberra, and so you can understand come finals time why getting people out into the stadium can be a bit tough. But hey, they're definitely producing the results to encourage crowds to come along. Final game of the round, so the Force take on Moana Pacifica, and Moana Pacifica come to a tight loss yet again, 21-18 in this one. No offloads and only 2 line breaks by the Force, as well as 15 penalties. Look, a bit like with the Fiji and Drua against the Crusaders. Look, the stats are against them. They shouldn't have won this game. Really, Moana Pacifica did all the right thing again. Like the Fiji and Drua, only 92 tackles they had to make because they played the ball in hand and made the opposition make all the tackles. 11 offloads, but only 4 line breaks from those. What's not enough to rack up a big enough score to hold on to that one. It could have obviously both sides missed kicks at goal. The Force missing more. So look, the Force could have won this one perhaps a little bit easier than they actually did in the end. Both set pieces jittery, I think is probably the nice way to put it, but 2 wins from 5 scrums. Actually, that's probably worse. That's a worse record than the Brumbies. I should have put red for Moana Pacifica's scrums there, not for the Brumbies, but still, that's poor by the by Moana. They really need to to work on that. Let's be honest. So, what does that mean? How does the table look at the moment? I'll just bring that up now. So I think there are some real, some interesting pieces to look at in the standings. Let's bring it up. There we go. I guess so. Some of the points there. Oops, that's not going to help. Is that me highlighting that piece there about the Brumbies? Only 79 points scored for 80 and 62 against. Only plus 17, but they've come away with 3 wins from that. When let's say you've got the Blues, Hurricanes, Waratahs, Crusaders, Reds, Rebels, and one in particular all scored more points than the Brumbies, but they don't let that stop them getting the win. No bonus points so far, so they're 3 points behind the Chiefs at this point, but 2 points ahead of both the Blues and the Hurricanes in there. Fiji and Drua. Now look, one of the things I got from the post-match against Monitor was the fact they've been had a 16-week pre-season, which is way longer than any of the other teams. So they should have hit the ground. They've hit the ground running, and they have done. But I'd expect the other teams to start catching up now, and that advantage that the Fiji and Drua had about not having that kind of the NPC season, not having to wait until sort of December or even January to start their pre-season, means that I think other teams will start catching up now in that one. The 78 points for, 104 against, minus 26, even though they've got a winning record of 2-1 because of that big loss against the Waratahs. But they've both been 2 points and 2 point and 1 point are both very close wins for the Drua. But hey, they're landing the right side of the ledger, and that's kind of what matters. Similar to the Western Force there, even worse, minus 41 points for the Western Force. And yet they've got 2 wins and 1 loss. So 2 narrow wins, but hey, all the wins count. It's not about how you get them. Teams down the bottom there, obviously the Crusaders. Oops, I just realized I don't even need, I've cut off the Highlanders. Obviously the Crusaders struggling. Simon did make the points of will Razor keep his job? Well, look, Razor is apparently leaving the Crusaders at the end of the season anyway, so I think he'll keep it to the end of the season. But yeah, the big question mark there is Razor this super coach that he's been cracked up to be. That's something I'll do a Patreon special about sometime this week, hopefully, and get that out. So you want to see that, then go to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio to sign up for that for as little as $1 a month, and that helps me pay for all the tech and other stuff that goes with it, and means I wouldn't have to work weekends and miss rugby games by doing the census. But if you could head over there, that would help me out an awful lot, folks. Because yeah, a couple of things. I mean, the Crusaders have had one of the most stable squads we've seen. So is it down to squad stability? Look at the number of coaches that he has also turned over, a bit like Eddie Jones at England as well. So a couple of things there to look at and have a chat about on that Patreon special. The Reds, look, I think another team that perhaps lower down the table than they'd want to be. Brad Thorne's been there for quite a while now, but not able to still 2 losses and a win. Sure, they're 100 points, but only 90 against. So they've scored more than they've let in, but that hasn't helped them get the wins on the board, as we've seen. That doesn't always come up with points. So the Chiefs at the top there, they've scored 111 points. It's more than anyone else, sure, but that's only 6 more than the Blues and the Hurricanes. The big difference is that against. 64 against. They've only allowed 6 tries. They've got the best defence in the competition. They've got the best attack as well, but it's that defence that is so much that I think is a step above everyone else's. And I think that's what's differentiating them at the moment. So if they can keep teams down to fewer points, then they are going to go a long way in this competition. And yeah, the Chiefs going very well there. I think a lot of it will be looked at, say, on that attack, looking at players like Sean Stevenson, etc. But we need to also keep an eye out on that. Points against, I think defence will be the quiet piece that some people don't talk about, but is actually the thing that's driving that season for the Chiefs. I'm going to do a very quick run. I'll be about 10 seconds as I run off and grab myself a drink just to wet the larynx, as I'll be talking continuously so far. And when I come back, we'll be talking about the Six Nations. And we are back, and I've grabbed myself a Stoke Hazy Juicy Pale Ale. Folks, handcrafted, it says, but then I think probably you'll find most beers are. Anyway, so probably just a bit of a trying to jump on the craft beer bandwagon when it's not really a craft beer. Let's be honest, but all the way from Nelson, top of the South Island there. Just filling as I pour it. Cheers, everybody. Right, good to have that drink, and let's bring up then my spreadsheet that I've got about the Six Nations. There we go. So for those of you on the podcast, I've been maintaining a spreadsheet on the Six Nations, and I did for the Super Rugby. I should have mentioned that as well. That looks at looks at various stats from each of the games from each round, and I highlight the sort of best and worst in each round from that. So, and hopefully we'll see some trends about that going forwards. First up, Italy versus Wales. Italy went into this as the favourites, and probably for the first time in well, I think it's in a long time anyway. Someone did say in one of the podcasts I was listening to as which year it was the last time that Italy had gone in as favourites during a Six Nations game. And you look, kicking a goal 100%. They made the most offloads. They made the most line breaks out of any team in the round. And they had to make the least tackles as well. So they maintained possession, in theory, tiring out the opposition. Their opposition had the worst discipline, missed the most tackles, also the worst kicking at goal as well. But discipline, the turnovers, there, Wales didn't turn over the ball when they actually had it. But still, Italy really putting lots of good stats up there. But the only stat that really matters at the end of the day is on the scoreboard. And that's where Wales came up trumps. 29 points to 17. Wales in the first three rounds scored 27 points across all three games. And in this one game, they'd scored more points than all those games put together. They clearly needed to because they did need a win. So whilst both teams are coming to this with three losses, the conversation and the around the teams was very different. For Italy, it was all positive. Look, they're going in the right direction. They're playing running rugby. We can see their style. We can see their shape. For Wales, it was like, what is their shape? What are they doing? Do they know what the best team is? Should they be going with the old guys or young guys? What they're arguing off the pitch. What is going on? Two very different narratives for similar results at the end of the day, i.e., three losses from three games. But yeah, so so well done to Wales. I don't think any of us saw that one coming. And they held on over there in Italy. That does mean Italy will probably pick up the wooden spoon. I say probably because they do play Scotland next weekend over there in Murrayfield, and they could get the win and potentially put Wales back down into last place. But that is extremely unlikely with that one, especially as Wales picked up the bonus point as well in this one. With the penalty try is along with tries from Rio Dwyer, Liam Williams, and Tulupe Faletau. So Simon says, I'm starting to notice attack and teams need to stop offloads if they're to win more games. Well, You say that, and Italy had more offloads than Wales, and yet they and more line breaks, and yet they didn't finish those. I mean, 11 line breaks for only 2 tries. That's just not enough. The finishing is just not good enough at this level to really. They should have scored more points than that with that many line breaks. In all honesty. So look, Italy still, I think, we will be positive they're heading in the right direction, but there are speed bumps along the way, and this clearly is one of them. And on to Simon's point, look, the whole point about line breaks, offloads, and winning is that offloads create basically effectively quick ruck ball or quick ball, and therefore the defence I don't have time to reset before the next attack. You can get a similar outcome by having your 2-second rucks. So you fast ruck speed, which is what Ireland has historically done. And so they've avoided doing offloads and have had the players lined up ready to clear ruck balls. So you don't need line breaks so you don't need offloads to get to have quick balling, to get line breaks and to win. But it is one way of doing it, certainly. Again, Italy, 20 kicks from hand. They've been the least kicking team across most of the weekends. They only made 1 more than the least in round 1, and then they were the least kicking teams in rounds 2 and 3. And again, only 20 kicks, 1 more than Scotland, who were the lowest. So again, low, not many kicks, trying to play possession, and this time it didn't come off for them. England versus France. Now, there's always talk about France struggling, Twickenham and blah, blah, blah. But I had France as heavy favourites in this one. But I did not see this kind of scoreline, which is a record scoreline for France against England. They've never scored as many points. They've never won by this many points against England. 10-53. Cracking game by France. 42 kicks from hand. The second most, equal most with in the Six Nations. 32 from England. England do a lot of kicking there. Eddie Jones did say in his podcast last week that he expected France to go to the long kicking game, and but it was those little kicks over the or chips over that bounced and led to tries were inventive. The unpredictability of this French team. There, 11 offloads. So again, that was England 3 offloads and only 1 line break. Boy, oh boy, England's attack seriously stuttering, and turnovers again. 2 weeks running that England have been top of the turnovers. 21 last week against Wales, where they actually came away with a win. 18 this week against France, and that if you turn the ball over that often to a counter-attacking side like France, you are going to be in real trouble, and that's what it proved. Dr. Wright says England outmuscled. Pardon me. Yeah, when that strong French pack can give Dupont and Tamac from football, it's scary stuff, and that's part of what we saw on the weekend. So cracking game by France, well done. So the only blemish, clearly that game against Ireland. So they've scored more points than Ireland, 133. Whereas Ireland scored 122, but Ireland have only allowed 56 points, only allowed 5 tries against. France allowed 10. So France have allowed 10 tries, twice as many tries as Ireland have, and that's been the kind of different. And that's again a bit like the Chiefs in Super Rugby. Defence wins you titles in that one. Dr. Wright says, I'm getting that Don Brandt is often in highlight reels for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I'm not convinced by Don Brandt at all. Hey, there we go. I don't watch enough of the England domestic scene to see why he's been persistent with it, to be honest, with that one. I thought he was fumbled the ball a lot during some of the earlier rounds as well. Christopher was if only there was an Australian coach we could hire who has a track record of doing well in World Cups. Well, yes. Clearly he has been let go, and we'll see how Eddie Jones goes with the Wallabies. Look, people have been saying that France have been out of sorts the first 3 rounds. Look, I think France have been building other kind of styles of rugby ready for the Rugby World Cup, and they clearly unleashed some of that against England this weekend. Looking at we'll look at the final rounds in a second. Scotland against Ireland. Look, it was 7-8 at half time, and Scotland were right in this. Ireland had like I think it was 3 forwards injured in the first 20 minutes. They ended up with both their hookers being injured off the pitch. Luckily, one of their props could come on and scrummage as hooker, but he couldn't throw lineouts, and hence they had Josh van der Fleer, their open side flanker, throwing in at the lineout, and they still had a better lineout than Ireland. So, sorry, than Scotland. It really was a disastrous situation for Ireland, and they coped with it extremely well. One of my tweets from last year, we got resurfaced because I took a screenshot, I took a photo of the team sheet for Ireland against the Maori, the Maori All Blacks, because I was doing media at that game, and they had their Healy, wasn't it, the prop, down on the team sheet on the bench as a loose head, tight head, and hooker. So he was pre-marked, pre-game available for that. So clearly, this has been something that's in the plans for Ireland if this did happen. So cracking work by the coaches there and by Andy Farrell to make sure that they were ready for this situation if and when it happened. And it did happen against Scotland, and they managed to not go to uncontested scrums. I think you'll find most teams would end up in uncontested scrums at that point. Discipline, fantastic for Ireland. Only 6 penalties all game, and they ratcheted up in the second half and blew by Scotland, who threw everything at them in that first half, but just could not get points on the board. They did keep it unstructured. It was played at a ferocious pace, and you can tell that by looking at the number of tackles in this game, and that tells you sort of how much rugby has been played. In this game, what was it? 315 tackles. Compare that to the England-France game, which was 239 and 204. So more than 100 more tackles than, or 50% more tackles than the Italy-Wales game. 50% more rugby is another way of looking at it than the Italy-Wales game. So a lot of rugby was played, especially in that first half. And then you thought, with all those injuries, that Ireland would struggle come the second half because they'd just run out of steam, having used up their bench already. But no, they stepped up in that second half and went on to win it. So cracking one by Ireland. Locked on right, so naff that South Africa, Ireland, France, All Blacks on the same side of the World Cup draw. No, I disagree, because it does mean there's real jeopardy in those early rounds. South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, all in the same pool. One of them won't make it out. One of them will not be making it to the quarterfinals, and that's 3 cracking teams. Then they will be playing. Then we'll have real quarterfinals that matter. France versus Ireland, or France versus South Africa, and then All Blacks versus Ireland, or All Blacks versus South Africa. So every round we're going to have real games that are going to be interesting. It's not going to be kind of like we know the 4 teams that are going to go from the quarterfinals into the semi-finals. We're not going to know that. They're going to have cracking games throughout the tournament. So yes, I can understand it's people are a bit upset, and it's particularly when it's their teams involved. But let's say I think it does. It actually will be good for the tournament in some ways. Scotland there, as you see, only 19 kicks from hands, so they kicked it the least this weekend as they tried to run the Scotland off the off the park, so Scotland and Ireland off the park, and didn't achieve that. And in that second half, let's say Ireland stepped it up, and then it was done. So I think the World Cup draw should be done in the third year of the cycle, not the first year or two. Look, there was that. Pretty sure that's what used to happen, and then the various countries said, "Look, we don't have enough time to go and recce the hotels and the training facilities and get all our logistics in place. So please, can you make the draw happen earlier?" Dr. Wright wants it to be 6 months out. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So that's why Eddie Jones at the moment is in France, checking out the hotel, checking out the training facilities, checking out how the journey from the hotel to the ground and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it happens ahead of time. Now, this time, because of COVID, it was even longer. Whereas this one, because of COVID, they actually took the results from the end of the Rugby World Cup because teams weren't playing in 2020, and so you couldn't, or playing equal amounts. You couldn't. They said then that the world rankings weren't fair on teams that couldn't play. So there is that reason as to why it is particularly bad or particularly skewed for this Rugby World Cup, and everyone seems to be going to forget about the whole COVID thing, but that's why teams wanted time to be able to get the resources and in a situation. Dr. Wright, World Rugby should do that. All the teams should get the same base resource. That would involve building a stadium, building a hotel, building everything in the same place. You can't all have the same resources because they just don't exist, and so that's how it is. What are the countries that qualify? What qualify for the World Cup notified of their facilities are? I don't know when it is, but they do know already. Say Eddie Jones, if they're looking at them. The reviewer feels like there's a gap in quality between France, Ireland, and the teams ranked below them. In the Six Nations, there definitely is. To me, this Six Nations was always going to be the Ireland, France at the top. Scotland were going to come third, England fourth, and then either Wales or Italy at the bottom. I think it was pretty clear cut that that's where the ranking, and that's what we're getting now. If we look at the last round of games are probably the worst round of games that we're going to have in the entire tournament. Looking at it, Scotland v Italy at home, Scotland at home are going to win that game. We'll have some exciting rugby from Italy. It might be a fun game, but it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a competitive game. I think we're going to see a clear Scotland win that one comfortably. Maybe probably not a blowout score as sometimes in previous years, but they'll still win that. France versus Wales. Boy, England just beat Wales 20-10. France just beat England 53-10. This could get ugly for Wales. Let's be honest. If France really turn up at home against Wales, then it's going to be a mess. Ireland versus England. Again, England have just got thrashed by France. Ireland beat France. Well, this one, it could get messy too. So it's quite clear that we're going to have 3 home wins in round 5. Scotland will beat Italy, France will beat Wales, and Ireland will beat England. It's already obvious that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. So not so much for Super Saturday for this weekend's games in the Six Nations, folks. It's just what it is. Top 3 playing the bottom 3. That's what you're going to get in this situation. Not so World Rugby can do all the planning, gym, playing fields, transport, blah blah blah. Look, to a certain degree, it is done, and it's not World Rugby that do it, but it's the organising committee. The organising committee tell each union which hotel they're getting and which training facilities they're getting, and then the union goes there and looks at it and goes, okay, how am I going to use these? Okay, so it doesn't. Yes, there is. They're allocated by world, or they have been allocated by the committee in France, and they all will meet minimum standards of but some will still be better. But still, there does need to be a whole bunch of logistics and organisation going ahead, so that when you arrive, you're ready to roll. And there isn't. You don't spend the first few weeks going, where's our scrum machine? Where should we set up the water? These kind of things. So there is organisation logistics that is needed by each union that goes there. So not that exciting a next round from the for the Six Nations to round things off, unfortunately. But look, it's been a cracking tournament, and we are looking at, with Ireland and France, the top two teams in the world, and two that I expect to go deep into the Rugby World Cup. Clearly, injuries will play a part in that, and both teams do have key players. Anton Dupont is the best scrum half in the world, and it's impossible to replace him. Clearly, you do replace him, but you're not going to have the same quality. So, that there is that situation. Let's also just have a quick bring up the next round of Super Rugby Pacific games, and have a look at those. So going into week 4, we've got just 6 games, or we got 6 games this weekend. The actually, we always have every weekend. That's why I said 6. Just so first up on Friday night, we've got the Hurricanes versus the Waratahs. Obviously, both teams coming off the back of losses in that one, and want to bounce back from that. But some Hurricanes clearly will go into that as favourites at home. On to Saturday, the Chiefs up against the Rebels. That should be a comfortable win for the Chiefs in that one. The Blues then host the Crusaders. Boy, oh boy. Tough one for the Crusaders, right? 2 wins and a loss. 2 losses and a win so far. Then win against the Hurricanes, against the Highlanders, to come back from Fiji and then take on the Blues. That is going to be a real tough assignment for them. And as I say, look out for that Patreon special. Also put a special that I'll put out about Razor during the week. Brumbies then take on Moana Pacifica. Boy, a tough one for Moana Pacifica. I'm going to try and make the Zoom call and interview with their coaches, and if so, we'll put out that interview as well to support us if I can get a recording of that. But yeah, tough ask there from Moana Pacifica off the back of 3 losses. 2 of them very narrow, but up against the Brumbies, that's a tough ask for them. Let's be honest, and I think you've got to say home advantage there. Can Moana get the losing bonus point? I think it's probably what they're looking for. Highlanders against the Force. Boy, oh boy. This is a big one for the Highlanders. They really need to get their season on track, and they need to win this game. It's a very winnable one for them. The Force, sure, they've got a couple of wins under their belt, but they've done it by scoring less points than they've given in. So they've allowed more points than they've scored. So it's going to be a tough one for the Highlanders, because, as Nocturnal Right says, they are low on confidence. It's very low on confidence. Absolutely, they will be. But I say that's a must-win game for them. And then the Reds up against the Fijian Drua. How will the Fijian Drua cope after the high of beating the Crusaders at home? Will they be able to keep up that standard of play when they travel across to the Reds, or are we going to see a bit of a hangover from that game, as all the emotion has been after all the emotion of that game? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But I've got a funny feeling that the Reds will be favourites on that one, even if they have come off the back of that loss to the Brumbies and have had a poor start to the season, losing also to the Hurricanes. But yeah, an important game there for the Reds on that one. So there we go. That's my look forward to that round of games. I will be back on Monday next week at 8 p.m. with the Driving Maul show. So do come and join me for that. We'll be obviously go through that final round of the Six Nations. We'll go around the round of Super Rugby Pacific, and I'll also talk about the Super Rugby Aupaki semi-finals as well. So cracking weekend of rugby coming up, folks, and hope to see you all there. Don't forget, become a supporter, patreon.com/NZ Sports Radio.